I want to welcome our friend Julie Kelly, who deserves the Pulitzer Prize, but we gave her the Mark Prize, about 6, 8, 10, 12 months ago, which is better than the Pulitzer Prize anyway. Julie, how are you?
I'm great, and yes, so much better. It's still the thrill of a lifetime to get the Mark Levin Award, so thank you.
My pleasure. One of these days we'll make one and send it to you. Anyway, here's the thing. I was watching some of these tapes, and I was watching particularly with the fella, with the Viking hat and so forth. Have these defendants had access to all these tapes before their trials or their plea deals? Do you know?
No, the answer is no.
Unbelievable.
And Jacob Chansley's story, it is particularly heartbreaking, Mark, and I followed this since the spring of 2021. Listen to this. You're an attorney. The DOJ was ready to go with charges. He was indicted by a grand jury, Mark, 5 days after January 6th. The first grand jury indictment against Jacob Chansley was handed down January 11th, 2021. With serious charges like civil disorder, obstruction of an official proceeding. They didn't even have any evidence against him yet. And Mark, throughout 2021, the DOJ repeatedly blew through discovery deadlines. They told the court they were building a special platform so all the defendants and their attorneys could access all the digital information. Of course, this is the most recorded event in American history. But they arrested people first, got evidence later, and still to this day, the defendants do not have access to the footage that the House Democrats kept under seal for 2 years and that Tucker's team had access to the past few weeks.
Boy, it's amazing what one election can do, isn't it, Julie? So let me ask you this. I assume lawyers had raised, some of them, with some of their clients, had raised the issue of access to these tapes before. And what's going on with these judges? I mean, I assume some of them are going to raise it again if they didn't raise it the first time.
The judges here, Mark, as you can imagine, are the real villains. DOJ only gets away with whatever the judges let them. And this D.C. District Court has acted as nothing more than a rubber stamp for the government, allowing them to mislead the court in terms of their discovery obligations. And now we even see judges. There was a woman found guilty today of numerous charges. She immediately filed a motion to delay her trial so she could access this video. And the judge said, no, that's all right. Maybe we'll need to see it, but it's not relevant to your case. This man is going to be the new chief judge of the D.C. District Court.
He's an Obama appointee. Yeah.
James Goldsberg, correct. And he will replace really the despicable Beryl Howell.
Another Obama appointee.
Yes. So it's really a Banana Republic-style environment in Washington, D.C.
And how does the judge know it's not relevant? Has he looked at all the tapes? We now know that the committee members didn't look at all the tapes.
Right. Of course not. Because most of these tapes, again, have been archived by Congress. You had 14,000 hours, Mark, that captured what happened between noon and 8 o'clock. That is what Capitol Police turned over to the FBI early 2021. But House Democrats asked Capitol Police to archive the entire 24-hour timeline. So you can only imagine things that would have popped up, say, 11 o'clock that morning, 10 o'clock that morning, if there were people planted inside the building, what was happening on Capitol grounds. But these defense attorneys have only been able to see what DOJ has allowed them to.
This I want the public to understand that if you're an aggressive, competent defense attorney, you want access to all the information so you can go through it with your client. You want to know if there are FBI undercover agents there, so you can point out that the FBI entrapped or something like that. If you're a court and you don't allow access and you don't allow that kind of discovery, you're not allowing due process. You can't defend your client. And that's what's taking place here generally, right?
That's absolutely what's taking place and has been. Unfortunately, so many of these defendants have been left with really poor counsel. Jacob Chansley is one of them. His attorney, Albert Watkins, should never have forced Jacob into pleading guilty to obstruction without all of the evidence. But he sold this guy down the river. He said horrible things about Trump supporters, that they were short bus people. He blamed Donald Trump for the events
The defense
of
lawyer?
January 6th. Yes, the defense lawyer.
And now a couple of members of the Oversight Committee, Comer among them, as I understand it, they want to take a look at the jail. And the way the media write this up is absolutely disgusting. You've been all over this. Has anybody from the New York Times ever taken a look at this D.C. jail? Do you know?
No, they have not.
Washington
None
Post?
of the January 6th beat reporters have. Nope. No. And I know
that's
them
in their
all. They have not
backyard. It's
gone
right
there.
down the road.
That's right.
So they don't care.
Mark, you have
Yeah.
people. No, they're beat reporters who are covering these trials and hearings. They could walk to the jail from the D.C. District Courthouse. They don't care because they're regime puppets. They're going to mimic. Think about this, Mark. Journalists this week outraged at transparency and truth.
Mm-hmm.
Tucker Carlson didn't make up any of the videos. He didn't reenact things at the Capitol, with people dressed up like Jacob Chansley or Brian Sicknick. This was legitimate government-owned video. And journalists, instead of condemning people like Chuck Schumer for calling for Tucker Carlson to be taken off the air, they instead are going along with this, thinking that this is some kind of a threat, that Tucker Carlson is releasing government video that shows a different side of what happened on January 6th.
And they just keep lying about the deaths that happened that day to police officers. There were none. None. Police officers weren't killed. Now, look, if you attack a police officer and so forth, you're going to be prosecuted and charged. But so far, they've prosecuted or have jailed or whatever they're doing almost 1,000 people, Julie. 1,000 people weren't in there trashing cops.
No, in fact, the data from the Justice Department bears that out. About 10% of the total number of criminal defendants are charged with attacking police officers with some sort of weapon. The overwhelming majority of charges are low-level misdemeanors like parading in the Capitol. But, Mark, I'll tell you something even more alarming. Matthew Graves, the D.C. U.S. attorney who we've talked about, he told the Washington Post that figure would double, that they believe the total caseload will reach 2,000 defendants. Now, Mark, when was the last time you heard a federal government prosecutor put a quota on an investigation and prosecution? But I'll tell you, today there were some interesting developments yesterday and today in the Proud Boys trial. They actually have very good defense attorneys, and they caught an FBI agent lying on the stand, concealing evidence, doctoring evidence, and in one communication being told by an FBI boss to destroy over 300 pieces of evidence in a case. They're not sure if it's this case or another case. So these are sort of the revelations that can come out in a trial when defendants are properly defended by their counsel.
So, and this is what I read that you wrote about too, or talked about, and that is that we have an FBI agent here who doctored evidence for the trial in order to get this guy convicted, correct?
Yes. So this is part of an FBI chat room or chat application called Links, where the FBI agents talk about cases, investigations, etc. And they tried to hide thousands of messages under the Jenks rule, as you know, turning over, any sort of communications that relate to the specific case. Well, someone on the defense team found these hidden messages, and it is a trove of exculpatory evidence for the defendants and incriminating evidence for the FBI. One agent told another agent to remove the agent's name from a confidential human source report. Now, Mark, we know at least probably 15 FBI informants were run into the Proud Boys months before January 6th. So they want to doctor the evidence of that. And more egregiously, you had the FBI spying on privileged communications between an attorney and their defendant, their client, reading the emails and then warning, it looks like, the chief prosecutor that this particular defendant plan to go to trial. I mean, and you have the Judge Tim Kelly, who is sitting there in that courtroom, seeing all of this develop and running interference for the government time and time again. It's so just enraging, but the truth is coming out.
He's a Trump judge, right?
He sure is. Yep.
I want people to understand how district court judges are chosen. You heard me say Trump judge? It may not be a Trump judge at all. He nominated him, but a lot of deals are made at the district court level, not typically the appellate court, never the Supreme Court. In order to get through two of our nominees through the Judiciary Committee in the Senate, a president might agree to one of theirs. Reagan did it. Every president has done it. Trump has done it. So we don't really know if this guy's quote-unquote a Trump judge, even though he was nominated by Trump, if you know what I mean. And I'll tell everybody one other thing. These district court judges, they have lunch together. They sit in a conference room. They bring their lunch in, whether they get it at a cafeteria, they bring it. They become socially friendly. They become buddies. And this is also part of the problem, isn't it, Julie?
I'll do you one better with Judge Tim Kelly. Not only did he once work in the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office, the very same office that's prosecuting every case, his wife is a top official for D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser.
There you go.
That's how incestuous Washington, D.C. is, and why none of these trials should take place in the nation's capital.
This is one of the things I've been thinking about telling the House Republicans and at least start the process. That the idea that Washington, D.C., that goes 95% Democrat every presidential election, that jury of your peers, for a Republican or Trump supporter or whomever you are, it's not a jury of your peers. It's impossible to be a jury of your peers given the ideological differences and given the hate that's developed in the city for, say, a Trump or whatever. And so it's very difficult, if not impossible, to get a fair trial. And so something needs to be done about this. There needs to be a new Judiciary Act. I've actually been thinking about this because the jurisdiction needs to be removed. I'm not even talking about the venue. The entire jurisdiction for that district needs to be removed and sort of spread around to different parts of the country because this is ridiculous. And you're 100% correct. This guy Kelly, from what you just told me then about his wife, then I know for sure that was a deal made to put him in there because the Trump people wouldn't typically put somebody like that in there. I can't imagine. Any final comments, Julie?
Just thank you for covering this. You can tell that the truth is coming out, that the January 6th narrative is completely unraveling by the utter panic and hysteria in the media, congressional Democrats, and, of course, our rhino Republican senators from Mitch McConnell to Mitt Romney down to Lindsey Graham, who also expressed outrage that Tucker had access to this video.
It's unbelievable to me that they put up with this January 6th committee, this Stalinist organized effort by Nancy Pelosi. And it goes on, and the American people, the information was censored from us. And now we know members didn't even look at the videos that the staff did. And they even allowed, as I understand it, Tucker and Fox, for the Capitol Police to take a look at everything to make sure nothing violated their security protocols, and it didn't. And there's still attack for this. So that tells you that McConnell, Romney, and the rest, they want these people rounded up. They want them thrown in jail. They don't believe they should have fair trials and due process. And that's perfectly fine by them, right?
It sure is. 18 Republican senators voted to give this DOJ a $3.5 billion raise, including five, which will help hire almost 100 temporary federal lawyers to strictly prosecute January 6th defendants. 18 Republican senators voted to give this DOJ a raise and empower this political persecution, this rampage against Trump supporters that is destroying their lives, breaking up their families, bankrupting them. And it's really shameful what the Senate Republicans have said now, or more importantly, Mark, what they have not said about what this DOJ is doing.
It's disgusting. It really is. All right, my friend, you take care of yourself, Julie. You've done a tremendous job. That's Julie Kelly. If people want to find you, where do they go?
All my work's at American Greatness, amgreatness.com. I post a lot of things happening in court on Twitter, Julie_Kelly 2, and my book, January 6th, which I will always have the eternal honor of having your endorsement on my book. So thank you, Mark, for covering all my work and getting this crucial information to the American people.
Julie, it's my honor. You've done a tremendous job. I want to thank you. Take care of yourself.